Hey guys, welcome back to Tabletop Never Stop. Today I am covering the Followers of Bone and, of course, the Free Folk Heroes pack. I kind of owe you guys this video. I was on vacation and then the new factions got teased and then I got distracted. So smash that like button and we'll get started. All right, so here is the Followers of Bones. They are a 6-cost unit. They have a movement of 5. They hit on 3s with a dice line of 8, 5, and 3. They have 5 up on armor and a 7+ morale. Certainly better than Free Folk or Spearwives, but not that much better. We look at their ability. They have Horrific Visage. Each time an enemy targets this unit with a melee attack, the enemy suffers a panic test before resolving that attack. So this power is potentially pretty useful. Kind of depends on who you're going up against, how much you're able to put out panic tokens, etc. It's cool is it's not an order, it's an ability. So if for some reason they're getting attacked multiple times, they're triggering multiple panic tests. And we'll see later there are some stuff, there's some free folk stuff coming that will synergize well with this ability. But it's a 6-cost unit. What you have to ask yourself is, would you rather take 2 units of Raiders? Obviously, Raiders don't have Horrific Visage, and they hit on 4s. But if you can get multiple Raiders into combat with the same enemy, suddenly they hit on 3s. And of course, because there's 2 of them, they're rolling way more dice. And they have a lot more wounds, too, because there's 2 units of those Raiders. Followers of Bone have slightly better morale, but they're just as killable, and they cost twice as much. It sort of depends, I guess, on what kind of list you're building. I think there's probably a place for one of these guys, but I think a whole army of them is not going to do too well against, unless you're fighting an enemy with really bad morale. Then they're pretty good. These guys are actually great against other free folk. They're pretty dangerous. But yeah, so that's the Followers of Bone. They come with the Champion of Bone, who has Prey on Fear. Each time an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, this unit may restore up to 2 wounds. So that's some situationally pretty good healing. Again, if you're fighting enemies with for bad morale, you have 2 chances in a turn potentially to get wounds back. If you go in and attack, they fail a panic test, you'll get some wounds. They attack you, you trigger Horrific Visage, and then you heal some more. Of course, now you have a 7-point Followers of Bone. You could put these guys in other stuff, obviously, not limited to these guys. And these guys make sense, like in, for example, the Savage Cave Dwellers, where those guys can get vicious, and then so they could be potentially healing wounds with the champion. But obviously, Prey on Fear synergizes really well with Followers of Bone. That actually takes us out of the Followers of Bone box and into the Free Folk Heroes box. These are the Bone Lords Chosen. They are an 8-point unit, and they can only be taken with Rattleshirt. So, what's changing? They still have movement of 5. They still hit on 3s. Their dice line gets a little better. Second rank only drops to 6 instead of 5, and third rank drops to 4 instead of 3. They have 1 better morale, and they have 4 up armor. So this is the first time so far in the game that we've seen the 4 up armor save on a Free Folk infantry unit, and it's potentially pretty interesting. For one thing, Regroup and Reform is actually really good to put on these guys. So if you imagine pulling wounds out of a group of raiders and then plopping them in here is pretty strong. These guys are actually also a pretty good target for the Endless Horde. I mean, in some senses, you want to bring back a unit that has insignificant, so you're not getting more victory points on the board for your enemy. But if you are going to bring back a unit that is worth a point, you should bring back a really powerful unit. Although you need the Lord of Bones to field this unit in your army, you don't need him to bring him back. So, good target for Endless Horde. So, I guess I got a little bit excited about the armor save. So he has Horrific Visage, just like the normal Followers of Bone, and he has Prey on Fear, which is effectively saying you have a Champion of Bone for free. Of course, it costs 8, so not for free, but built in. So now that this unit has a little bit better armor, I feel like the ability to get wounds back is actually way more valuable because they're not very likely to get killed like in one hit. So being able to get wounds back potentially multiple times a turn is actually all of a sudden really good. Also made potentially even more good by the inclusion of Rattleshirt. So this is the commander version of Rattleshirt. He has an order called First Claim. So after a friendly combat unit completes a melee attack, if it destroyed an enemy rank, and if Rattleshirt's unit is within short range of that enemy, you search your tactics deck or discard pile for 1 Rattleshirt tactics card and attach it to this unit and then shuffle your tactics deck. That's a lot of words. Basically, You attack an enemy, you destroy a rank. If Rattleshirt's within short range of the enemy, then you can you can go look for one of his tactics cards and attach them to the unit in question. And basically, Rattleshirt's tactics cards are well, they're sort of like Night Watch Vows. They're just tactics cards that get attached to a unit and then provide a bonus. They don't have an additional ability like the Vows do, but they're in some ways they're better than Vows because you could put all three of the tactics cards on one individual unit and buff them really significantly. So when you're playing them normally from your hand, you have to. It kind of works the same way as the order. You have to destroy an enemy rank, and then you can attach the card to the combat unit that did that. And then there's 3 different versions. Jagged Trophies gives you each time this unit is attacked with melee for each defense save, roll of 6. The attacker suffers 1 wound. Mark of Slaughter. This unit's melee attack rolls plus 2 dice. Each time this unit makes a melee attack after the attack has been completed, it may restore 1 wound. And then Gruesome Reminders has, while engaged with this unit, enemies suffer -1 to panic test rolls for each destroyed rank in that enemy unit. These are all pretty decent abilities. So, like, again, throwing these abilities on a Raider unit isn't that great because they could fairly easily get blown up. But if we're going to put these units on the Born Lord's Chosen, those guys are a little bit more survivable, and you could maybe stack all these powers on them and make them super good. Jagged Trophies will work really well with Prey on Fear ability, so it's just like it's more punishing enemy for attacking you. So that's good. Obviously, additional dice and restoring wounds is really good. This card actually would work okay with the Giants. They really don't need the 2 additional dice, but getting a wound back after every attack is actually pretty good for the Giants. It allows them to be like super tanky. And of course, because it takes two successful hits to create a wound, it's extra good. Again, Gruesome Reminders, giving -1 to panic tests, melds really well with anything with Vicious. So right now, the Cave Dwellers make a lot of sense for it. Or anytime you're already hitting in the flank, that could be quite a powerful ability. The thing that's not that great about these abilities, even if you're using the order to get them out of the deck, you have to go up, attack the enemy, destroy a rank, and then you can attach these abilities to the unit that's engaged with the enemy. Now the problem is that now you're engaged with the enemy, and most of the free folk units are pretty delicate. So I don't know how many of these you're actually going to be able to stack, but certainly an interesting play style. And if we get more defensive units coming out for the free folk, then I could see this. I could see Rattleshirt being a pretty powerful commander. Here is Rattleshirt as a 2-point attachment. He has Onslaught. This unit is targeted by swords. It may make a free charge action instead of an attack action. And then he has Prey on Fear, the same ability to restore wounds. Charging instead of an attack is good. Makes it easier to use the attack spot on the tactics board. In some ways, the tactics board is not as important to the free folk because, it's sad, but it's because their units aren't as good, so they're not getting as much benefit. But you think you're generally going to want to deny your opponent from getting free attacks on you, and that makes this easier to use that spot on the tactics board. And then of course Prey on Fear, already pretty good. So he's okay for a 2-cost unit. I think we're actually going to see some better ones as we go through this though. So that was Rattleshirt. And now we're on to Harma Dog's Head. At 1-point attachment, you got an order, follow me. When this unit performs a maneuver or march action before moving, target one other friendly unit in short range. After this unit completes its maneuver or march, the targeted friendly unit may make 1 free maneuver action. Harma's got a pretty good ability here. The free folk have to be mobile. They have to be moving up and claiming objectives or hitting the enemy in the flank. It's really the only chance that they have. A 1-point attachment that gives you, potentially multiple free maneuvers as long as you don't get her killed is great. I would say Harma's basically auto-include if you have the room for her. It's a pretty powerful ability. She'll help you get those raiders up, and once you get multiple raiders into the same enemy, all of a sudden they don't suck anymore. So Harma's great. I also have Harma's Bannerman, who is a 1-point attachment that can only be fielded in an army including Harma and must be attached to her unit, ignoring usual attachment restrictions. He has an order in sight. When this unit makes a melee attack before attack dice are rolled, this attack rolls its highest attack die value and gains Vicious. This unit may suffer D3 wounds after completing this attack. So this is a bonus that damages you. We've seen that a lot in the Starks. And getting to attack with your highest attack die value, actually pretty good for the free folk because they tend to drop off pretty severely as they take wounds. Vicious is good, especially if you're managing to get into the flank and then you're stacking your bonuses. Taking D3 wounds after completing the attack, is not so great, but it's a risk. It's a risk that lots of armies have the option of taking, so it's not that crazy. Since this attachment has to be in the same unit as Harma is, I don't really want to be dealing wounds to my commander's unit. That seems like a not super great idea. So that makes me not like this particular attachment. But once a unit's already engaged, you're kind of stuck there and sometimes. So like if you're on your last rank, getting all the way back up to attack with your front rank could be 5 extra dice. So that's potentially worth it. But yeah, Harma's Bannerman, a little less interested in her than Harma herself. The sculpt's can be pretty wild though, so there's that. All right, here's the commander version of Harma, Vanguard Commander. She is an order superior flanking. When a friendly unit within long range attacks an enemy in the flank or rear, before attack dice are rolled, the attacker rolls +3 dice and the defender becomes vulnerable. She also has Vanguard Commander. When you claim the tactics spot, you may return 1 commander tactics card from your discard pile to your hand. +3 dice and vulnerable is obviously good, especially just kind of considering that the free folk really need the help. The Vanguard Commander ability is interesting too. It's really just a little bonus. You're going to want to claim the maneuver spot anyway because free folk cards get their bonus off maneuver. So it's just a nice little extra, oh cool, I get a card back. That is, of course, if you've played them. How easy is it to play her tactics cards and how good are her tactics cards? Well, let's find out. So our first one is Diversion Tactics. After a friendly combat unit is attacked, one other friendly unit within long range of that unit may make a free maneuver action. If you control maneuver, instead they may make a pivot and a free march action. After a friendly combat unit is attacked, that's a pretty easy to use trigger, and the range is also really good. So especially if a unit gets attacked and survives, it means you get to move a unit up, hopefully into a flank, and then it'll be your turn. And if that unit isn't activated, then you can go and attack with it. So that's a pretty good ability. Also worth noting that it's not melee attack with melee; it's attacked. So you could potentially really move up on some archers that are maybe trying to pepper you from far away. So that's another cool way to use that card. Next, we have Forced March. At the start of the round, one friendly infantry unit may pivot and then make 1 free march action, and then become weakened. So we got a free pivot and a march. That's super mobile, and then we become weakened. So that part's not great. Getting weakened's not good, but there's lots of uses for this card. Even though getting weakened's going to definitely make your already not great units totally suck. If you're trying to claim an objective, then this could be really useful for that. Sometimes a portion of the battlefield will end up being empty, and you could definitely use Force March to really just zoom a unit over to where objectives are sitting unused. So that's Force March, and then we have Fainting Maneuver. When you claim the maneuver spot on the tactics board, replace that zone's effect with 1 friendly combat unit may make a free charge action. If they're successful, you may place them in the closest flank arc of the defender, treating for all purposes as if they had charged that flank. All right, so just the act of getting a free charge is great. And then turning that into a flank gives you some access to some pretty good bonuses. And actually, this card will interact really, really well with superior flanking. If Harma is close enough to use her order, they're also going to get +3 dice. The enemy is vulnerable, and they're getting -1 to their armor saves and their morale. So this card's actually pretty dangerous. So Harma's good enough with the maneuver spot on the tactics board that the enemy's probably going to want to stop you from getting it. The reality of that is they were probably already going to try to stop you from getting it because that's all the triggers of free folk tactics cards anyway. So Harma's definitely impressive. I really like her 1-cost attachment. She looks pretty dangerous in a horde style army as well as a commander. All right, on to yet another maneuver related free folk attachment. This is Jarl, the advanced raid leader. He has an ability, Jarl's Scouting Party. You may hold Jarl's unit off the table instead of deploying them as normal. When you claim the maneuver spot, you may replace that zone's effect with deploy Jarl's unit anywhere fully within short range of a flank table edge. This is not their activation. Obviously, holding a unit off and then bringing it in later can be pretty interesting, pretty powerful. Not to keep on harping on the free folk units, but if he's in a unit of raiders, and they appear behind you, you're probably not that worried about it. There's no reason why you couldn't implement something bigger. And still, if they're attacking from behind, and especially if you're already engaged, that attack could be pretty devastating. Obviously, like mid game, coming up behind, it can really knock an enemy off the objectives they're trying to hold, etc. Obviously, he's a little bit blockable. If the enemy goes first, they can claim the maneuver spot, and you can't put Jarl off this turn. And kind of the same argument applies, like maybe you need to do something else, but you're spending your first turn bringing Jarl out because you don't want him to get blocked. So that can all be kind of lame, but still interesting power. You actually, if the enemy has varies, they could potentially stop you from getting Jarl out at all. If they claim maneuver on all the rounds that are their first turn first, and if they're successful on their rolls every time you try to claim maneuver on your turn, that could happen. Probably not that likely, but I mean, imagine if you had Jarl in like a 6-point unit and the enemy was able to use berries to keep you from even bringing out like 8 points of your army. That would be a big bummer. So keep an eye out for that. It's not like berries is everywhere though, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. All right, moving on to Styr, the Magna are Thin. This is the commander version of Styr. He has the ability to go down fighting. Each time a rank in this unit is destroyed, one enemy engaged with it suffers 1 wound. And if you control combat, deal D3 wounds instead. And then also Stalwart, this unit gains +2 to morale test rolls. So this is a pretty good punish you for attacking me attachment from the commander. Also, whatever unit he's in is like suddenly a pretty good candidate for regroup and reform, because if I can plop 4 to 6 more units back into him, and then you have to destroy them again, I get to use this ability to give you wounds again. Obviously, it's way better if you can manage to get swords. And what's cool is like even if an enemy comes up and manages to kill you in 1 hit, you're still going to get to use this ability on them 3 times. And like again, if you're controlling swords, then that might do quite a bit of damage to the enemy. The morale bonus is actually pretty nice too, because obviously most of these units we've seen so far can generally use the extra morale. So let's look at Styr's tactics cards. Oops, this is Styr's NCU. Okay, let's go right to the attachment cards. All right, so his first one is Styr's Vengeance. At the start of friendly turn, target 1 friendly combat unit. If a friendly combat unit has been destroyed this round, remove 1 activation token from the targeted unit. And if the target unit is within short range of Styr, their melee attacks gain +1 to hit and +2 dice this turn. All right, so that might sound complicated, but basically on your turn, if you've already lost a combat unit this round, you can take an activation token off of a unit, which free activations is pretty much one of the strongest abilities in the game. So this is cool. And then if you're doing it to Styr or someone nearby Styr, they also get +1 to hit and +2 dice. That's pretty good, especially considering this is probably a unit that the enemy's thinking, oh, they can't attack me this turn, I'll just leave them be and deal with something else. So that's great. Also, getting an extra activation with an army that already has way more activations means you're going to have more time to just kind of do whatever you want once the enemy's activated out. So that's good. It's not the easiest trigger because you have to have a unit. They have to have a unit that's already activated and a destroyed unit. Once you've gone, like once the enemy's done going, if you've lost a unit that round, you can turn on any unit you want. Somewhere in the round, the enemy destroys one of your units, and then they run out of their own activations. So then you run your best unit right up to the enemy and hit them. And then as long as you have another activation left, you can play this card to take that activation token off that unit and go again. So sure, the trigger is not the easiest thing in the world to do, but at the same time, you're free folk. You're definitely going to lose units. And Styr's Vengeance is pretty powerful. Set for charge. When a friendly unengaged unit is successfully charged from the front, that unit makes 1 attack action against the enemy before they resolve their charge attack. And if the charged unit is within short range of Styr, the attacker also becomes weakened. So this is the same ability that the Rattleshirt Halberdiers have, but on a tactics card. And then if Styr's nearby, they also become weakened, which is cool. Like you hit them before they attack you, and then they're attacking you with a weakened token. You might could probably prevent a lot of damage. So that's a cool ability. Final Strike. When a friendly infantry unit is attacked with melee, after defense dice are rolled, for each wound suffered by the defender, the attacker suffers 1 automatic hit. If the defender is within short range of Styr, the attacker suffers -1 defense save rolls against these automatic hits. Basically, for every wound that you take, you can turn around and hit the enemy back. This is a great punish you for attacking me card, especially like what it's amazing against is like berserkers and great axes, because they're gonna hit you a bunch, and then you're gonna turn around and turn those into hits, and they don't have that good defense, so then they're just going to get like slammed by them. The Great Axes can potentially get 16 wounds on a unit, so then if you played Final Strike after that happened, they'd be taking 16 hits back, which is might kill them, depending on how wounded they already are. So again, you don't. It's not great to be losing units all the time, so this is situational. You have to have it in your hand when a unit is getting attacked, but it's a pretty good way to kind of weaken the enemy. All right, so this is the NCU version of Styr. So after he takes a spot on the tactics board, he attaches to a combat unit. While influencing a friendly unit, each time that unit makes a melee attack, it deals an additional D3 wounds. And then when this card is removed, that unit suffers D3 automatic hits. So this at first glance looks a lot like some of those other abilities we've seen where you get a bonus and you take automatic D3 wounds, but these are hits, not wounds, which makes them, which actually makes this deal a lot better. A lot of the free folk units have mediocre defense saves, so hits can become wounds pretty easily. But potentially on the Bone Lord's champions, this ability is pretty good because D3 hits are less likely to become wounds. Also really good on the giant. Actually, the damage will totally stack. If you roll a 1 on the D3, it doesn't even matter. And even if you roll 3 hits, the worst that could happen is you take 1 wound off of that, and decent chance that you don't take a wound. I think this might be the best 3-cost NCU in the game, in my opinion. Like Pycelle's up there for me. I think Pycelle's really good, but Styr this is a good ability. Maybe you don't use it in the first round, but if you're using it properly, you could easily get between 5 and 15 hits. It's actually it's even better than that, because if you put this on a unit and then manage to make the unit attack more than once, you get to trigger this multiple times. So actually, best case scenario, right? You use this to claim swords. You get your D3 hits. Maybe they hit you back, but then when you if you're still alive, you attack again, and then now you've gotten D3 hits on them twice in a round. And sure, you take the hits at the end of the round, but there's some times where that's not going to matter at all. Like, for example, if you know a unit is going to get killed, like you're going first, but you know the enemy's definitely going to kill them, then there's not really even any cost of putting Styr on them. And so yeah, Styr is really good. This Styr is really good. He's not bad as a commander either. Actually, I like him as a commander too. Also, since he's so cool, it does make me wonder like what the Thins are going to be like when we finally get them. Definitely excited to find out about that. All right, here is the Weeper. This is his 2-cost attachment, Cruel Tyrant. He is an order at any cost. If this unit would fail a panic test, kill 1 model, and this unit to automatically pass this panic test. This is the ability we've seen on the Lannister Guardsman. No biggie, but it is quite welcome here on a panic test. And for the free folk, you can easily lose, 4, 5, 6 units. So an ability to kind of get out of that for only 1 wound is a pretty good deal. It also has Order Horrific Reputation. When an enemy unit within long range would pass a panic test, you may force that unit to re-roll any dice for that test. Kind of like a panic token, but you get to see if they're going to succeed before you use it. And this actually synergizes really well with like the Followers of Bones or Bone Lord's champions. There's definitely enough here to start yourself a panic style free folk army. Here is the commander version of the Weeper, Horrific Butcher. He has an order. It's the same one as before, Horrific Reputation. When an enemy would pass a panic test in long range, force them to reroll that test. And then he also has Cut Them Down. When an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, they suffer 2 additional wounds. Obviously, you can use Horrific Reputation on the enemy that's taking the panic test that's engaged with them. Here are his tactics cards. His first is Agonizing Deaths. When an enemy combat unit is destroyed, all their units within short range of that enemy suffer a panic test with -2 to their roll. We have this total panic list thing going on. Obviously, this works really well. Though if there's another unit engaged with them, with the Weeper's unit, you can use Cut Them Down. If there are Bone Lord chosen or anyone with a Bone Lord champion involved, they can heal off of this. So there's potential scenarios where Agonizing Death actually causes like all across the board, like well, not all across the board because it's short range, but short range is actually pretty large, where like you could be triggering those panic effects on them. All right, Price of Failure. When a friendly combat unit attacks, before attack dice are rolled, all attack dice results automatically hit for this attack. For each result that would have normally missed, the attacker suffers 1 wound. So I kind of see this as like a Hail Mary card. So you wouldn't want to use it all the time, But like if you need to get a unit killed, if you need to get a unit off an objective, or like Ninth Watch are about to heal themselves back up if they get the chance to, then this card's actually really good. But like the scenario where it is good is like kind of limited. I wouldn't want to use this on a charge since I get the reroll anyway. And then finally we have Reckless Slaughter. When a friendly combat unit makes a melee attack, before attack dice are rolled, this attack gets +3 dice and vicious. After this attack is completed, the attacker becomes vulnerable. So this is like another, like a bit of a Hail Mary kind of situation because you're making yourself more likely to get hit. Although if you're playing this on enemies that have really bad defense anyway, like getting vulnerable it's just not that bad if you're already rolling on 6s or 5s. Again, situational, but in the right place, the right time, it's pretty dangerous, especially if you're already like hitting the flank, and then this could get pretty serious. Reckless Slaughter. So that's the Weeper. I don't know if he's doing too much like your standard Horde army, but if you're going to run a Panic style army with Cave Dwellers and maybe the Followers of Bone, I think the Weeper makes a lot of sense actually as a commander or an attachment. And that takes us to Ygritte. This is her 2-cost attachment. She has Nimble. When making ranged attacks, this unit may shift 3 inches instead of 2 inches. After that attack has been completed, this unit may then shift an additional 3 inches. She also has Assassinate. Once per game, when this unit attacks an enemy within short range, you may target one attachment in that unit and roll a die. On a 3+, kill that attachment. So first off, it's worth noting that Pip is in the Night's Watch for basically the same cost, and he doesn't come with Assassinate, he comes with just Nimble, which, I mean, makes sense, because basically the Night's Watch, well, they don't really yet, but they're going to have access to a long-range unit, and adding Nimble into a long-range unit is actually going to be pretty wild, because then they suddenly have a threat range of 15 inches. And, like, if you're close to them, let's say you're like an inch away from them, they can actually shift 6 inches back from you after they're done shooting. But we're not here to talk about Pip in the Night's Watch, we're here to talk about Ygritte. You could put the units that you could put her in, well, the units that make sense to put her in to get Nimble are the Trackers and the Spearwives. And, you know, the extra shift and stuff, it's not worthless. Obviously, it really can allow you to move around the battlefield. In fact, let's say you shifted 3 inches and then shifted another 3 inches, like to the flank. You could pitch yourself up for a flank on like the next turn with Nimble. And then Assassinate, you know, is actually pretty good. As long as there are attachments to Assassinate, you know, that can go pretty well for you. Imagine plucking a commander right out of his unit, or really even like any 3-point attachment. They're really going to be feeling that Assassinate. You know, it's not guaranteed, and but definitely he's going to be watching where Ygritte is and wanting to make sure she's not around. And here we have Ygritte as a 3-cost NCU. She has Influence. When Ygritte influences a unit, that unit's owner may discard 1 tactics card at random to prevent her from being attached. While influencing a unit, any attachments on that unit or other NCUs influencing that unit lose all abilities. So this is like extremely thematic. I love the idea of like if you attach Ygritte to Jon Snow, he forgets his vows. So you know, potentially pretty powerful, but preventable with by discarding tactics cards. So it's like more of a control element, really. That'll just always be situational. But, you know, being able to burn tactics cards out of your enemy's deck, usually pretty good. Free folk have, you know, all this access to 3-cost NCU, so it is a little hard to choose. I might favor Craster and Styr over Ygritte, but still, she seems pretty decent. So if you are facing an army without any attachments and they don't have, and it's not the Night's Watch, so they don't have vows, and it's not. They don't have NCUs that influence other enemies, then Ygritte doesn't do a whole lot for you. She actually can be used to remove negative effects from your own units. So like if Cersei was attached to a unit, you could play Ygritte on them as well, and then Cersei's ability wouldn't be on there anymore. Actually, you could also play her on your unit if it had Jaime Lannister in it to stop him from dealing the D3 wounds, because he would lose. So that's just a thought. And that was actually 2 boxes we just did. We did the Followers of Bone and the Free Folk Heroes box. Let me know what kind of videos you guys are looking for in the comments. I know I'm not the fastest YouTuber in the world, but if I hear you guys want to see something, I'll do my best to give it to you. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.